project that has two sides, each side will be limited to 10 minutes, and that side, not each person will be limited to 10 minutes. All comments about the project should be about the project being presented. This isn't a venue to air personal grievances. If you hear the gavel, you are out of order. If you persist, you'll be removed from the meeting. Once your request is heard and the board's decision is rendered, you may leave the meeting. However, if you have questions for the staff, please wait until the meeting is over, or you may contact them the following day at the office. Once public testimony and discussion of a particular item have concluded, the members of the board will deliberate and render a decision. Members with a personal or financial interest in any project are required to recuse themselves from voting. All decisions by the Architecture Review Board are final. Any person having a request for a certificate of appropriateness denied by the board may appeal the board to the Montgomery County Circuit Court. Any such appeal shall be filed with the Circuit Court within 30 days after receipt of the notice of the board. We have 6 members present tonight, I believe. It takes 5 minutes to pass the motion. If your favorite Architecture Review Board member is not here and you want to present when they're here, you can, when your name is called, you can delay your request to the next meeting. Let me introduce people. I'm Elizabeth Brown, I'm the chairman. Katie Williams, Kalia Bell, Cedric is not here. John Hayden, Jake Johnson, Hillary Morgan. Thank you, thank you. All right, the first item on our agenda is 660 Cloverdale Road by Jason Reid. The board members were deciding that we could, when you finish yours, you can come on over to our houses and install this nice pool.
Well, you know, I think if I had it in right now, it'd probably be a hot tub more
I
than
believe
swimming
we would be
pool.
having this meeting at your pool.
And quite honestly, it would probably be installing this probably come spring.
Okay.
Just because I'm not gonna have the carrying cost to it through the fall. Y'all have my presentation in front of you. You know, we're just gonna try to center that pool. It's not a very large one, it's 14 by 28. All at ground level. There'll be nothing sticking above, nothing will be visible from the neighbors. We do have a fence that we took down between me and the neighbor to the south. We'll come back and get the approval to put that back up prior to construction. Outside of that, I'll take any questions y'all may have.
Are there any comments from the audience about this project? Comments from the board?
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one question. In terms of the hardscape around the pool, what's the plan for the materials?
The landscape architect that designed the plan came up with some. To be honest, there's a few of those I'm not exactly satisfied with. We're going to make some changes. I know that tree that's back there along the back corner, I think it was some sort of evergreen kind of thing. I know where we're with that.
I was talking about the concrete around the pool.
It's standard concrete.
Just concrete. Okay.
Yeah,
Just curious. Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? All right.
Perfect. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. All right, our second project, Spencer and Christina Cadden, 1616 South Perry Street, Garden District.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, as the application stated, looking to add a side driveway gate to match the front gate. Reason the same, historic wrought iron that we were able to restore. Just finally getting around to doing the side gate. Now that we've done the front gate a while back.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to this project? Comments from the board? All of the gates that you've put up have been appropriate. I don't see any problem with what you plan to do here.
I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next project is, and you're walking up before I can even call your name.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing. All right, Tim Sliger, Stephen Seabolt, and Matt Smith. For us to approve the commercial building for reuse as a gym and laundry space, including a new aluminum storefront glazing system, signage, roll-up doors, lots of things. All right.
I have a few things here to go through. So again, this is 121 Goldthwaite, and you have it in the package. It's an existing 15,000 square foot kind of industrial warehouse building in the corner of Goldthwaite and Huron. What we're planning to do is use that for the hotel operations and fitness center. Obviously, we're doing the hotel across the street. And the idea is to reuse this, and there's a few, what's called upgrades to the building that we need to make. In regard to the site, I think you could, well, these kind of going through the existing. So this is the existing condition, have kind of a patterned brick along the Goldthwaite side, the kind of existing storefront in the corner with the kind of red glazing. The red color glazing. Then you have on the Huron Street, you have kind of a red brick, and then as you go towards the back lot, there's kind of an exposed concrete wall that's just painted right now. As you kind of keep going through these existing conditions, these are some of the existing neighbors. Obviously, this is not a kind of a traditional historic building in the neighborhood. And so what we're trying to do is, we found actually in the kind of our research that it's, in the 1950s when it was built, it was actually an automotive dealership originally. And so it was kind of a called mid-century modern look. And so some of what we're trying to do is kind of bring that back and go that direction. So as you go to the initial site plan, which I think is probably, as you get to some existing images, that's internal courtyard, existing shed. On the site, so it's existing fence, as we're kind of going through things. We'll come back to this one, but I want to talk about the site. So the site, so let's stay there for a second. The site has a few things we're looking at. So basically it has two existing parking lots, one off of Goldthwaite and one off of Huron. And the goal is basically to repave those and restrike them. So that's kind of the initial thing. As you saw in that image, there's an existing chain link fence, and our actual proposal now is just to remove the chain link fence. But to build on that, we actually are proposing kind of a security gate, like those arms that would have to kind of control vehicular access into the lots. In addition, you kind of see the carport into that bottom right-hand corner. There's just an existing metal kind of shed-looking thing that we would tear that down as part of this renovation. And so that's kind of the site components that we're looking at. If you go to the next image, it's the proposed plan. So again, the uses that we're putting in here, again, it's administrative offices, there's some hotel storage, and then the laundry facilities. In addition to that, there's the kind of full-service fitness center. So I think that's the cardio, strength training, there's group fitness, there's actually a locker room, sauna, showering facility. So that's kind of the uses that we're doing on the inside, and obviously there's some upgrades that we need to make on the exterior. Sorry, one more just on that, I forgot to mention. You can kind of see the little laundry vestibule that we're doing as a kind of again, just a way as you're pulling to that first, unload the carts, because they're going back and forth between the hotel and this laundry facility. And you can go to the next one now. These are just some of the actual, so we went ahead and submitted for permit on the interior renovation, not knowing exactly the extent of the exterior that we wanted to do. So these next couple of drawings are just what we're doing currently on the inside to deliver that. There is a small mezzanine that you can see to the right as well. So again, if you keep going, these are again just the construction drawings. So if you stop on the exterior, so a couple of things we're doing. So on the Huron Street side, there was actually an existing door, like a roll-up door, and you kind of see it in the center at the top of the image. We're proposing to go back with a storefront system there that would match kind of what we're doing on the corner. There's a couple of doors that are existing that we're actually proposing to remove, and then we fill those with brick. And as you go to the Goldthwaite side, again, we're going to kind of replace again that existing storefront that's happening on the corner, and then put a new kind of entrance canopy. There's a trim detail. It's kind of a composite metal panel that's happening that's kind of ties back to some of the detailing we're doing at the hotel. And then one of the things we're looking to do to kind of unify the whole design is, since we have kind of different colored bricks and concrete walls, is to actually paint all of this. And what we were going to do is use one of the colors from the actual, I guess, approved color list, which I think is MHC 44022. It's kind of a grayish tan color. And so the thought is to kind of unify it all. We would paint the existing red brick on Huron and the brick on the front street. If you go to the next one, we have kind of a little rendering. Oh, I'm sorry, there's the first kind of 1950s view of it. So again, we're kind of wanting to bring it back to that kind of look. So it's we're not really changing, it's minimal changes. And then you can see what kind of existing storefront that they replaced with the colored panels. So again, we would pull that out and replace it. If you go to the next image, So this is kind of the rendering that we're looking at. So that the idea of we can replace the kind of corner glazing. We would paint the two sides, so again, kind of a tannish gray color. And then there's a metal panel kind of trim that goes around the top, and again, that's tying into what we're doing over at the hotel. And then the core 10 steel is again some of the stuff with the hotel and the memorial, just again kind of tie it all together architecturally. And I think that's, go to the next one. I think that's, yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's, again, we're trying to do minimal, let's call it architectural accents to it. We're not trying to redo it. We're keeping the height the same. Again, besides the one little vestibule, there's no real addition. But we're really excited that we think this is a great use for the property. We love location. And again, it complements what we're doing at the hotel. So that's kind of what we have. I'll turn it over to you guys if you have any questions.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak to this project?
Chair, I'd just like to mention a few things that
Okay.
may help you in your consideration. Built in 1950, it's a prominent location in the historic district. It's on the edge. The building's been empty for approximately 10 years, so we welcome a new use here. The glazed element at the front of the building has been replaced. If you look at photograph 3Q, you can see the historic photo and what's there now. It's a completely different glazing system that's there. The chain link fence and the carport are being removed, which is a positive for the district. They're providing parking, which I don't think was mentioned, even though they're not necessarily obliged to within that smart code zoned area. That's going to ease the parking that we're going to see coming to the neighbourhood. The current zoning of the property would allow some less suitable uses for a residential district. So this is a good use that we think complements the existing uses. It also complies with Montgomery 2040, which is the future land use. It brings it more into consistent with what we want to see there. So we actually believe this is a good example of a rehabilitation of an existing structure. And importantly, we don't have many records for the Cottage Hill district, but the National Register district suggests that this property is a significant intrusion on the historic district. So I think what they're proposing to do, including the painting, because this is obviously a non-contributing structure, I think we have to think of the district as a whole. Other potential uses here may mean that the building would not have to be rehabilitated. Someone could basically use it for storage. And if someone were to tear it down and build something new, they could go up to 4 stories, which again would be a significant impact on the district. So we are fine with this. I believe you have approved repainting of non-contributing buildings before the painting of the brick. So we do support this project, and we think it will be beneficial to the historic district as a whole.
Thank you, Warren.
Just a second, Warren, in the comments that you, I guess, and staff made, and I guess initially y'all may have opposed the painting of the red brick. Well, let me back up. What is this yet? The yellow brick, it's painted, correct? Is it painted, or is it actual yellow
I
brick?
think that is the actual yellow brick. It's on the front where the patterned brick is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that is actually a through color, but that's part of the brick. I don't think that's painted.
Okay. I mean, and I understand this is not a residential property, obviously. The board mentioned, and we've mentioned before, painting brick, allowing painting bricks. We've had people that have painted homes without permission come in, and we would have never given permission because it was in a residential historic neighborhood, and then they have to try to paint it off. I just want to make sure, since this is a business, this is not a residential area, obviously, or a residential building, it is a residential area. Is the board okay with the painting? I think it would, personally, I think looking one color would be better than But it is.
Well,
No,
I do
I just
be-
want to be consistent in case somebody comes in.
And I do believe the board has approved the painting of brick on non-contributing buildings in districts before.
I know we have, but we want to be very careful about when we do it to make sure that we explain on the record why we do it.
Yes.
And again, you know, businesses may be a bit different than residences, even though this home is, or this building has obviously been there for 80, 90 years. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I think what you do with the building is great. Look over the drawing. I think it'll be very nice once you get it done. There was a question about fencing. You're going to remove the old chain link fence. Are you going to replace that with any fencing, or is it just going to be kind of open?
It's just going to be open.
And you're going to have I guess, a bar or some sort of security entrance to?
Correct. Just controlling the vehicular entrance into the actual parking areas.
All right. If you decide in the future you want to add anything, please know. I'm sure you do. Come see us first, so we can look at it.
John, I don't think I have a problem with the painting of the brick
Okay.
due to the fact that it is a commercial building. I think also with the location of where this is and the changes in the existing colors that they have and the fact that they are coming back with an approved color palette, a color that's already approved by us, but I think two is a color that will be consistent across this whole board building. I think it makes sense. So that's just kind of my thought process related around painting in general.
I've got just a couple questions. The interior court that faces Goldthwaite, is that parking as well? I may have missed that part of your presentation.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
We would repaint that as well.
And there's quite a bit of grade change from the Goldthwaite sidewalk to that interior court. Is there going to be a fence, or what's your plan to kind of protect any pedestrians from falling into that interior court?
Oh, you're talking about the backside? Well, I guess
The
west side.
Goldthwaite side, where the laundry vestibule is. The sidewalk sits kind of up above the parking lot grade. If you look at, I'm looking at page 3P, the west elevation, well, that's actually east.
We're removing the shed. Talking about that portion of it. That is a good question. If it's over 30 inches, we would need some type of guard just for code
Sure.
purposes. You're talking about right where that metal carport is.
That's right, where the carport is, yeah.
That is a good thing. We were really only thinking in the sense of security, so we're trying to get rid of the chain link fence.
Sure.
I think that area probably would need some kind of guard for
Sure.
protection.
That was just my only question, was kind of a guardrail of some kind I think would be needed in that area.
When I was in architecture school, we learned about good design and how to evaluate good design. And when I got to the historical commission, I had a hard time unloading all of that. And my mind now kind of sifts through buildings and I say, all right, what are the character defining features of this building? And to me, the character defining feature of this building, the only one I could find except the volume that we've got there, and that little brick that's on the left-hand side, is that colored glass corner, kind of fantasy 1960s looking architecture. So I want you to tell me why you think this is not a character defining feature. Been on that building for 50 years, even though it wasn't original, so that's when we should consider it. So this is your test.
Okay. I will take that. Again, and it's much more about the inspiration of the 1950s, because again, it's just a much clean aesthetic.
Yeah.
I do think that's kind of it's called late 60s, early 70s, Mondrian kind of look. I mean, it's to me, it's not actually consistent with the original design, which I think is better. So again, we were trying to go back to that, being more consistent. So, you know, it's a clean aesthetic that we have with kind of a frosted on the top edge of it, which to me is much more consistent with the mid-century modern than the, let's call it 70s postmodern look. So it's kind of why we went that direction. Again, I personally didn't see a lot of benefits of that color palette, in particular how we're tying it into the existing facility that we're doing across the street. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's kind of the direction we're
It's a good answer. It's a good answer. Any other comments on this project?
I do.
Okay, Katie?
One, where you got the numbers 121, it looks like it's on an unpainted red brick. But I think actually that's the unpainted yellow brick. Or I might have this mistake.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, that actually part of it, that is yellow on that part of it. And really, I think the thought was, it's more of that Core 10 look. And the Core 10 is not, it would be probably a faux Core 10, just in the sense that we don't really want to bleed on the
So,
concrete.
well,
And
it looks like you got the 121 and then it bumps up to where the,
It is. I mean, your point is that is currently a yellow brick. And so the idea is that it's a contrast between where we're turning the glass into what we're doing the new painted brick.
so you're not really using the
We're not really
unpainted yellow brick, there you're using the Core 10?
It would be using the Core 10 in this case.
Okay. And then my other thing is, it's more really of a comment. One of the original pieces left on the building is that arched entry. And it was in the original picture, and it's still there now. I mean, it's a sad little entry now. And I can see it doesn't go with your vision, and I like your vision. It's just kind of sad that that's not part of it anymore.
No, well, we do have still a canopy over the door, but we've obviously made it more
Yeah.
rectangular and it fits with the current, not the kind of previous arch.
And I think that piece is actually gone.
It's fallen off
in,
now?
in 3B. Yeah, it looks like that is.
It's
might
been
have
there
fallen down.
recently, but I do think it's gone now.
Yeah, it was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it was structurally sound at all, the way it was hanging on there.
And then to the big controversy of painting the red brick, I would think that brick, I've been by that building, I've bought antiques from that building, and I want to say that brick was not meant to be longevity, for lack of a good way to say things.
Yeah.
It probably needs to be repointed, and honestly, if a good elastomeric or something's put on it, it'll probably help the longevity of that building more so than leaving it unpainted.
I agree.
Well,
There's
you
also-
can certainly see it's been patched and looks like some other things have been done. I mean, the more I think about it, I think painting is going to really help tie into
I mean-
obviously what y'all are trying to do.
It is kind of a building onto its own right there, and I kind of like the dynamic it'll have in that corner. It's also really the start of on Heron Street. That's kind of more of a business district in some respects. So,
All right, any other comments? I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You received the minutes in the mail. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right, then they stand approved as submitted. Any other things to be considered by the board tonight?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think I've provided you all with some documents regarding hex paver issue, and we would like to have a discussion
Okay.
about this. So there's a standing request to replace some hex pavers on St. Charles Avenue, and the photos are included. We also have the photos here on the screen for members of the audience as well. And so it's just sort of, it's been an ongoing problem. Some of the sections of hex pavers in the city are, pretty good, but others are not so good. They're very deteriorated, and the city has issues as far as funding goes, as far as skilled labor, and things like that. So we really just want to open the discussion to you all as the board, as far as what you would like to see and any thoughts that you have regarding, a potential city policy. We had a discussion at this month's HPC meeting as well, and I believe Mr. Flowers from Street Maintenance is here too, if you all would like to hear from him regarding the challenges with this issue.
And it's not something that we're looking for a solution tonight. It's something that we've just started to see how we can we can address this issue. And I think Mr. Flowers can explain some of the issues that we have as the city actually maintaining these sidewalks, because we have to consider obviously preservation, we have to consider safety, cost, the skill set to do it. If any are removed, what should they be replaced with? So Mr. Flowers is here to basically explain the situation from a maintenance side, if you would like to hear from him.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is William Flowers. I appreciate your time today. This may not work. We have various areas within the city that require upgrading to sidewalks. A lot of them are in the historical district. We also have a lot of hex pavers that aren't in the historical district. Sort of what has happened over the last few decades is a lot of the home ownership rates in the historical districts where these are in place have changed. The general maintenance by the homeowner as these places have become more rental properties has degraded. The tiles themselves have degraded. It's, historically, the Preservation Commission stated that the first ones were laid in the 1880s and they were constructed here. From our viewpoint, that's a 150-year-old technology that we don't necessarily have the means to maintain to a standard that meets ADA compliance, the legal requirements to not have trip hazards. And so in a lot of these places, we would like to be able to take them up and pave them. Right now, we've got a lot of outstanding requests that we just haven't touched them because we haven't had a good resolve and an understanding of what would be permissible and not permissible. But that being said, I've got miles and miles of concrete in the city that's flat concrete, that's trip hazards that we're trying to address and repair. We're using some outside contractors within the city. We only have 30 people within the concrete crew. We break them into 4 different teams and they patch as much sidewalk as they can. We've been neglecting this, and it's something that I don't think we can continue to neglect anymore, particularly as requests continue to come in. I don't know what the correct answer is. I believe, particularly in each historical district, it may be possible to preserve an example of them and maintain that, but we have blocks upon blocks that are in the condition that you see there that I don't think are, viable for maintaining or refurbishing into the condition that they were 50 years ago, 180 years, 150 years ago. So that's sort of where we are, and I'm open to any questions or any suggestions that you may have.
Are these, Mr. Flowers, are these pavers something that the city, or are these custom? They have to be made? Is it something you can't go to Home Depot and pick these up?
No, you would have to get them made custom. There is a company here that would make them for us. I don't have a good price on them. We probably have 200 or so on the city lot, places that we have taken them up where they weren't completely broken, that we have concreted over outside of the historical districts traditionally, that we have because part of our mandate was to store them as need be, but we don't have enough to replace all the broken ones now.
Well, you mentioned you have some paver sidewalks in non-historic districts. It might be possible if you remove some in the non-historic, and it may not be enough to do any good, but
it's really not, because if they're not in the historical district, they're in pretty bad shape. Think north of the interstate there on, say, Hull and Lawrence, in those sections sort of in between the historical district and the downtown proper, there's some runs there that come to mind, and there's some runs over in the Day Street area that come to mind that they have not been maintained. They're not as good as the one that's on the page right now.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've dealt with them a little bit in the past. Some of the other, if they're broken, you'd throw it away. I mean, it's hard to, or almost impossible, especially if it's more than 2 clean break pieces. Repair it's not probably a very good option.
My struggle with this comes down to, I like the hex pavers, okay? Just personally, I like the hex pavers. I like the look of the hex pavers. I like the fact that they're in the historic districts. However, there is another side of me. And that other side of me comes to creating an environment in the neighborhoods that we're at today where people can walk and it can be accessible and it can provide for a safe space and hopefully get people out into these neighborhoods more. And so that's the other side of it, which leans me to the concrete solution, okay, of doing a paved sidewalk in these areas in lieu of these pavers, okay? I do question, is there a way to do a stamped hex or something of that nature, okay, that would give you still the kind of look of the hex pavers to bring that in. And I think would be something that your guys could do.
It's something my guys could learn to do. Right now, we don't have the stamps, we don't have the skill set for it, but we're not above, trying to incorporate that into what we do. It does take longer. It's a time issue. We have an example that was done several years ago on South Lawrence Street, going into the Garden District as an example. And I think it looks good. And as it ages, it looks more authentic. The grooves filled with dirt and moss grows in the cracks.
The better, probably the better they look. And I think Hillary has brought up a very good point. Certainly understand could maybe incorporate some pavers and then kind of tie it into, once your men are able to, get it down, I guess, and some sort of stamp that would, again, over time, the older the stamps look, the better they look.
And whether we did it internally or outsourced it, like the example that was done several years ago by the former Public Works Director as an example, either way, it's more sustainable and much less time consuming and much less labor intensive and really less skilled is necessary than to pull those up, to rebed everything, and then to relay them. It's just a lot of labor. It takes so much time out of a diminished, small labor pool that we have to do this type of work. Is one of the main concerns that we have.
The one thing that I agree with what everyone has said thus far, but I think that most of this comes down to your expertise and knowing what the skill set of your men actually is and how you can expand on that. I personally would totally lay this on you and say, come up with a time frame, but also, working with the city to make sure that the budget allows for whatever, extras are necessary to make it actually work. Because I don't want to do it, and I don't want you to call me to do it either. But I'm totally convinced that you know how to build this into something that is doable for the city, because I do believe that it is a really nice accent to our historic areas to have these different walkways that just don't look like everything else. I saw the one that you all did a couple months ago, right off of whatever the name of the street is. And it really was kind of sad to see the hex pavers go and then that nice, clean, pretty, concrete. It was really pretty, but it's just not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not, but I do understand that is, time, effort, and really and truly like building a curriculum, to teach your guys and make sure that everything falls the way it's supposed to fall. So whatever you could do, because I'm thinking the stamp is the way to go at this point. I don't see the, build a block situation being feasible at all.
I've got a question. Has there been any proaction to try to save these before they fall into disrepair? So what I'm talking about is the ones we see, you know, they're in disrepair, you got weeds growing through them, all this kind of stuff. Could there be a collaboration between maybe the historic district groups, you know, the Cloverdale Association, all that, and y'all to perhaps help the homeowners that have hex pavers and may like them in off in front of their house, to help them maintain them in a better state? And then also, kind of related to that, if it does get into a, you know, we got to take them out kind of thing, some areas, especially maybe some homeowners or some like churches or whatever may want to maintain the hex paver, and it's a collaboration of them helping pay to have them stay or part of a, you know.
We do have some examples of that, particularly in, say, the Garden District area along Hull Street, Trinity Presbyterian. They redid the sidewalks around their church. They took up the hex pavers. They replaced some of the hex pavers. They relayed those hex pavers. They did that in the last decade, within the last 10 years. The parts that they were able to lay within, they built concrete borders to hold them in place. Those are holding up pretty good, but even the work that they did, some of them are falling off. As it's a function of that technology. When it's first laid, it's great, but as the topography changes with the root growth, when you relay them, you end up raising them up. They've all been relayed.
Technically, the way to do them is to put your sidewalk like underneath there and put some sand and then put these on top so it has a foundation. So that, I mean, that's really the correct way to do it, but no one wants to lay two sidewalks.
That's right.
Well,
But-
and you can't go around pulling up, well, these are good, let's take them out of this sidewalk and store them over here. Well, now you've got a trip hazard. You start taking them up, you gotta start repairing
We
that
have
sidewalk
to put something back
immediately.
down. We do, and there's a lot that goes into it. So if we take them from less disadvantaged neighborhoods to restore them in, you know, neighborhoods that have traditionally more home ownership, that's a lot of what's happened with the disrepair. Is the, you know, home ownership numbers have changed in several of the historical districts, and with that, attention to upkeep, it goes down. Say in the Garden District and along Hull, they're in pretty decent shape, and we do work with the homeowners because the homeowners call us and let us know. But those fixes are becoming more and more temporary. Those calls, will fix them a year and a half later, they've shifted again. We're in a situation where the technology isn't keeping up with the need. We don't have a solution. We're really just wanting to start a conversation with you to see which direction you'd like us to go. I would like to look into pricing, both outsourcing, you know, what does it cost Concreations to do 100 feet and stamped? And the next time we meet, I can have those numbers easily. What does it cost to purchase the stamps? Because it's, you know, fiber infused concrete. Can I get that from the contracted vendor I have, or do we have to mix that on site? There's a lot that goes into it, but we didn't want to start moving in any direction without talking to you guys and, you know, getting a feel for what you wanted to do. Like I said, this is hopefully just the start of a conversation.
And I would like to add just a couple of details that I sent you all via email, that there is a section in the city code that we're really interpreting that indicates that changing the hex pavers would actually require a COA if it's inside of the historic districts. So that's where, you know, it is a difficult problem for us to consider here, but you know, because it is a safety issue, so that's, I think, the top concern. But then at the same time, as Hillary was saying, it is a character-defining feature and defines part of the feeling of these areas. And so in our draft revised design guidelines, it does indicate there's a guideline there that says it is not appropriate to remove hexagonal sidewalk pavers and replace with solid poured concrete. These guidelines are not adopted yet, but that's where I see as being sort of the best practice, is to keep the hex pavers. But again, there is this safety issue, and I think if we can move toward a stamped concrete solution, then that would still fall within this guideline. The guideline is saying no to solid poured concrete, but if we do a stamped pattern that replicates, or tries to replicate the hexagonal shape and look and feeling, I think that could be a solution. But then we're still at the point of where I think that we should establish an expedited procedure so that the street maintenance crews aren't having to wait for the board meeting every month, like each time when they have to go out and address something. So those are kind of my thoughts as of now. Just wanted to add those couple of details for you.
And I think it's also important as well, as Sean said, yes, they are a contributing feature of the historic neighbourhoods, but at some point, some of them really are no longer contributing features, because if you've only got 10 feet left and that 10 feet is broken up, I mean, it really ceases to become a contributing feature of the historic district. I think it would make sense to at least preserve the best examples in districts, and I think then people visiting the districts, it would be good for them to see the hexagonal stamp pavers, but here is an original section, complete section of sidewalk. And I don't know if that would be possible or in the budget if we only pick the very best examples, a sidewalk that's a complete block. And then people could see what they originally looked like, and we would always have spares for the good ones that you're removing from other areas. I just think these are all the things we need to think about to try and plan an acceptable way forward, because there's definitely a different strength and feeling from neighbourhood to neighbourhood as well, and some people value them very highly and other people don't, so it's a balancing act, taking into account skill set, cost, safety, accessibility. There's a lot to think about.
The one thing too about stamped concrete, concrete will be like the sidewalks, you're gonna have control joints about every 5 feet. And so that'd be like every 2.5 hex paver, you have a straight line through it, right?
Be more than 2.5. It'd be probably every.
Like 2.5 pavers, 3
Maybe
pavers.
more than that.
They're 18-inch pavers.
18 inch.
Do they have to be straight across, or can you maybe?
Well, to be,
It's a control joint is a control joint.
it's there so it doesn't crack.
Well, sometimes the best solution is not the one
But
everybody likes.
I was about to say, the ones that are online, they follow with the hexagonal cut, because they stack
I
them
don't
together
know.
end to end.
But in some cases, we've had occasions where, you have to just, I call it the eye test. If someone are able to find a good stamp, train your crews, and they knock it out of the park and make it look good. If I'm driving by, I can't tell the difference. I see looks like a paver from here. Now, if I got out of my car, okay, I can see that this is very good, nice stamped concrete. An example is, 2 blocks over, well, some real pavers. Well, it's just,
There are a lot of examples throughout the state of cities that have done mixed concrete with a concrete made to look like brick and panels. And I haven't seen that those have lasted very well. The freeze-thaw cycle seems to pick that surface treatment up, and it falls off fairly readily. So I would be concerned about doing something like that. I'm also concerned that this is a public meeting and we're having a discussion about this, but it was not on the agenda. So people, the public, didn't really have any opportunity to
well, we're not making a decision.
I know we're not making a decision, but we're being a whole lot more amenable to him than it would be if there were people here, because people love these pavers.
Well, I understand. And
I don't want to lull you into a sense that, they're going to go along with me,
No,
because
but
people
also,
are not going to go along.
I want you to know that this city has a legal responsibility to have safe, ADA compliant pathways within their easements.
Sure.
And we're at a point, you can see from some of these pictures, to where either we're closing down the easement, the right-of-way, the pathway, we'll take it up because we can't maintain that.
Right.
Or we'll have to pave over it to meet the legal mandate. And so the city's we're in an unattainable situation as well. I know people love them, but people aren't maintaining them.
Well, I think this is a good place to start. I think we gotta come up with some solutions, 1, 2, or 3, and then at some point, yeah, there'll have to be a public forum and announced to individuals everywhere, and, everybody be prepared to, okay, we're gonna give you an opportunity to come make your case to keep it, or let us know what you think. But then when your crews are gonna go out, they're gonna take up a portion of the sidewalk, they're gonna do whatever is decided, and somebody's gonna come out of the house that didn't come to the meeting and raise all kind of hell. And, I'm ready to stand up and say, well, you had an opportunity to express it, and the time to express your opinion is not when a crew is out there doing their job. It's too late by then. So, sorry.
Have you reached out to other cities that had the same thing? I'm looking at a article online that mentions about 10 different cities and what they did with their hex pavers, so.
We've looked at what other cities have done with preservations of, say, the Belgian block cobblestone roads and sections that have been maintained. That's somewhat where the idea of maintaining an original section as an illustration with signage saying, when this neighborhood was originally platted in 1897, these are what the sidewalks look like, and these are examples of those original pavers. That's where that idea came from, was looking at what some of the other cities have done.
Well, I guarantee you, whatever the solution is, somebody's still gonna be pissed off about it.
We'll never make
it won't matter,
everybody
but you just have to go take care of business.
Yeah, it would probably help to have, a precedent of another city and what they did. To say, look, we're not the only ones having this problem. This is how they did it. We think this is a great idea of whatever you decide on, and safety being number one.
Yeah, I mean, the city has a liability issue they gotta take care of. Bottom line, it may just come down to someone have to tell them, we're gonna have to do this, not the way we wanna do it, but we're gonna have to do this, or we're just gonna have to shut down the sidewalk in front of your house. Those are your two choices, which one you want.
Is that in front of my house? Well, we can fix, I will say this too. I mean, on Felder Avenue, we have a smooth sidewalk. And yet, women with babies in strollers are jogging in the street. I mean, they could run on the sidewalk, but no, they'd rather risk my running into them. People walk in, I don't know why people want to walk in the street in Cloverdale, but they do. They don't have a lot of sidewalks on some streets.
Some street, yeah.
But even on Felder, where there is a sidewalk, people would rather walk in the street.
Cloverdale was originally planted without sidewalks. The sidewalks were added later in the 40s.
Well, it was supposed to be the country. It was supposed to be a suburb that was like the country. I understand that. But now everybody wants to run in the street. My problem is seeing them. They're running in and out of shade, light, shade, light. It's very difficult when you're driving against them to see them sometimes.
Well, there's a lot of flat sidewalks where the trees have popped them up.
Yeah, well,
We
the
go by one
sidewalk
daily.
on Felder Avenue is in good shape, but people just don't use it very much. I guess they want to run 4 abreast, and you can't do that on the sidewalk.
Are there any more questions that we could address now? Thank you for your time.
All right, is there any other business to discuss? If not,